Alright guys, we are here in the Moto House. We are in Dallas, and this lovely place is, I guess, curated, owned, created, inspired, comes from this man here, John Hubbard. So John, what's the start of the Moto House? The big question.
Start of the Moto House was a little Honda 50 from a junkyard.
Oh yeah?
And that was at 18. I needed transportation to get to my summer job between high school and college, and that started it. It was necessity for transportation, and it stayed that way for several years, and then it became a hobby, and then it became a passion. So I find that it's hard to sell bikes. I've done it, but
you and Leno.
Yeah, really.
Leno doesn't sell anything.
Yeah, well, he's got quite the collection.
Yeah.
But I enjoy collecting them. To me, they are mechanical memories and mechanical art. And I ride some, and some of them just bring me happiness.
As I've said, you know, does it spark joy? Does it inspire joy when you look at something? So, John and I met. I had actually sold him a bike, a CX500. You might have seen in another video. And since then, I think became friends, and I just kind of a mentor. And every time I come down through Dallas, I always try to stop by the Moto House, and this is actually a new Moto House versus the one that you had previously. Probably more of a house, so to speak, at the last place, as it was a kind of a dedicated spot. But
the last one was actually a suburban house, and from the outside it looked like a suburban house.
Totally, completely unassuming.
And when you walked in the front door, all of a sudden you were in a motorcycle collection that had the motorcycles and the accompanying art to go with it, and memorabilia.
Yeah, and you know, John is it's only been done for not even a month, and I mean it's not done, but like it's to the point where now you can have your open house and display it very recently, so you can actually have more stuff to look at, which is wonderful because you have definitely an extensive collection of just aside from the bikes, as you mentioned, like the art and the stories behind every picture and painting and photograph and things like that. There's just a wealth of history here. It's really phenomenal to look at. So,
well, thank you. I enjoy coming out here, working on bikes, looking at bikes, getting them ready to go for a ride, and then cleaning them up afterwards. It's my peaceful spot.
Yeah.
It is a place that brings me great joy, and it isn't for everybody, but it is for me.
Yeah, it just should be for you. You know, that's all it needs to be. Does it spark joy?
Yeah, and I'm fortunate in that I've got a wife that is very supportive. She's a rider herself, but she prefers the pedal type. Although she does ride motorcycles, she would much rather be on a bicycle.
Usually it's the other way around. I don't know. Now you guys you mentioned that you do every January you go down to Mexico on the bikes, right?
Right. There's a group, Motopia, that I ride with, and every January there'll be a trip with anywhere from 4 to maybe as many as 10 riders go down.
Yeah.
And we try and see different parts of Mexico all the time. And it's a wonderful country to ride in, wonderful people, fantastic food. Just be careful drinking the water.
Yeah. Now, that Motopia group, was that when you went to Africa? Was that just organized by you and somebody else, or did that have anything to do with Motopia?
That had nothing to do with Motopia. That was a tour group out of South Africa by the name of Sama, and they organized trips. It went from Kenya down to Cape Town, and it was extremely well organized. The bikes were BMWs that were in excellent condition. Nobody had any bike trouble. The places we stayed were very indigenous, but comfortable.
That's cool.
And we had some great riding, great cultural experiences, and I would look forward to doing it again. Africa is wonderful. The only thing that I would suggest anybody do, and we did it, is tag on time to go to some of the national parks, such as Kruger, for instance.
I've never even thought of like national parks in Africa or anything like that. I mean, the amount of stuff to see. You just think of Africa as a whole.
Yes.
Yeah, but getting down within it, yeah. Yeah, the pictures he posted were, I was following along in that whole journey. Just, this is amazing. So.
It was a lifetime experience and very unique. The wild animals are things that you see in zoo here, and over there you look out of your tent flap and they're right there. The other thing is the culture. I mean, you get to go among the Maasai and see how they actually live, go into their huts. And it's amazing how happy the people are over there.
Yeah.
The other thing that surprised me is the vast majority of people speak English. So that made it easy.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So getting back to bikes, you have your how do you call them? Just mechanical art.
Yes.
You know, you have some bikes that you don't really ride. They're great to look at and have as a date stamp on the whole spectrum of time and space and mechanical engineering, all that stuff. But the riders that you do have a lot of BMWs. What was the first BMW motorcycle that you had?
The first BMW motorcycle I had was the 1989 GS.
Okay, now that's
the blue and white.
The blue and white.
As I said,
okay.
I have trouble selling stuff.
Yeah. So how'd you come about that bike, and what made it so great that you kept getting BMWs?
Well, first of all, BMWs are extremely reliable. The shaft drive means you don't have to mess around with the mucky chain. And they, just like the name says, they're for road and off-road. And they are just a very comfortable, reliable bike to ride. And although I do wrench on bikes, I prefer to ride bikes as opposed to wrench on them, particularly beside the road.
Yeah. Yeah, out of necessity and not, whenever you want to.
Yes.
So, and then you, like, engineering background, metallurgy, I'm sure just in general, just geeking out over the German engineering and that quality level is another thing that spoke to you.
German engineering is something that is very intriguing. Italian styling is fantastic.
Of course, you have the Ducatis.
And Japanese manufacturing excellence.
True.
Japanese bikes are just peerless in their ability to be reliable. And I realize that I'm talking about the German reliability. The Hondas, the Yamahas, the Kawasaki's are even better as far as reliability goes. But I don't like chain drive. And yes, they do make a few shaft driven, but and I've got a couple. But I've gravitated more towards the GS's. Right now, I basically use a 1200 GS Rally that's factory lowered. I'm inseam challenged.
We're like statured here. It's a tall world out there.
Yeah, and I really don't understand why the manufacturers don't make more dual sport bikes that are for the inseam challenged. But the BMW people were smart enough now to finally add a factory lowered kit. I've lowered several of them myself. It works, but it isn't as good as factory lowered.
Yeah, I agree. My KLR that you guys see me ride, that thing's lowered, I think, 2 inches. And I still have, it's just toes. And then if I wear boots, I can, and I got enough weight in the bike, I can get my heels on the ground. But I'm sure I look silly, if somebody's parked behind me at a stoplight, I'm switching feet and leaning over,
Yeah, well, the big challenge whenever you're inseam challenged is when you get off road and it's off camber. You gotta be really good. There's a female rider by the name of Jocelin Snow,
okay,
who is just a fantastic off-road rider, and I'm not sure she's 5 foot. Look her up.
That's a challenge.
Jocelyn is a legend in the off-road riding, but it can be done. But you need to start young and you need to be disciplined about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've been watching one of the channels I like to follow is Itchy Boots.
Oh yes.
Oh, she's amazing.
The Danish woman.
Yeah.
Or is she Dutch? She's Dutch. She's Dutch.
She's a geologist too, I guess. So like a lot of her travels were kind of inspired by some of the geology and things around the places that she was going. And
oh, absolutely.
Very, very brave, and she is just like putting us all to shame in just what she's doing.
I just yesterday watched one of her rides when she just went into Namibia from Botswana, and she was riding single track across river bottoms by herself.
Yeah.
And she actually has a drone that will do the follow me thing.
Yeah, and I don't think I don't think she grew up riding at all, and then especially not like off road. So a lot of the off road she's doing, it's like this is above her, what she would probably call above her skill level, but she is just killing it.
And she's a much better person than me. When she tips over or gets in trouble, she chuckles about it rather than me cursing about it.
Yeah, she's fun to watch for sure.
Yes. But there's a lot of people out there really riding the world and having fun doing it, meeting people, and it's really amazing to watch.
Oh, there's just a wealth of people out there. I mean, you could spend, if you catch this video, you might have came from another video, and you're going to go to another video, and it's endless how much you can find. There's just it's really cool how small the world has been able to become in certain ways.
Well, when you talk about videos, that brings me to the topic of your videos, BJ, on YouTube. I particularly appreciate them because you go into detail educating the watcher on your techniques and things to look out for. They're actually instructional videos, so I commend you for doing that. Having lived in England for a while, over there they tend to do that as well. Here it's more about drama and psychology, and it's just not as instructional. It's more of a soap opera than educational. Yours are educational.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I definitely try to pack a lot of information in there, and there's definitely times where my videos run quite long and I get called out on that. But you know what? I know there's not a lot of information out there as far as like this is exactly how you do it, or here's like some concrete data. And, I really try to do that. And the people have let me know they appreciate it.
Well, and quite frankly, almost everybody today goes and Googles or YouTubes for different things that they're going to be working on to see, well, how did somebody else do this, so I can understand the pitfalls and the shortcuts and the best way to do stuff.
I definitely try to show like what didn't work with me too. Like I definitely try to show those mistakes and where I went wrong. I'm actually waiting on my YouTube certified patch, my ASC YouTube certified patch, because that's all we are anymore nowadays. Just go to YouTube, find a video on it. I'm an expert,
There you go.
So back to bikes, we were talking about like factory lowered stuff. The new Harley Pan America, what do you think of that? That has a mode where as soon as you get going, it raises up and
2 inches.
Yeah.
And I commend Harley for moving into the adventure bike arena. I think that it will do well, particularly with their loyalists.
Right.
And quite frankly, there's no brand that has a more loyal following than Harley-Davidson. I can tell you, I couldn't even begin to guess how many people have Harley-Davidson tattoos, and there are very few that I know that have tattoos for other manufacturers. So that's a lifetime commitment right there.
Right.
And quite frankly, the ADV bikes are much better to ride than the cruiser style. And so I think that Harley is onto something. Their first attempt, I've not had an opportunity to ride one
Yeah,
yet.
I'd love to ride one.
The reviews that I have read have put them up as a contender.
Yeah.
Now, saying that, BMW's been doing it for over 40 years now. So
They've got that bar pretty high.
But Harley has very carefully studied the market, studied the designs, and they've come along. I will come back to the one thing that I don't like. It's chain driven, and I'm not a big fan of chains. I know they're more, from an engineering standpoint, they're more efficient. But if you're going to do ADV riding, I prefer having a shaft. But I think that Harley is onto something with it. I'm going to be real curious of the sensation of riding the one that has the automatic height. I'm not sure how that works when you're in the rough and you're going and stopping and moving and stopping. And
my friend Ryan, he works for Harley, and he's actually been on one of those bikes doing like some of the press type stuff. And he said that it's almost seamless, like you can't tell, which is fascinating because I just want to experience that myself. So if anybody can hook that up,
well, I can
ride.
understand how it would work smoothly when you're stopped and taken off and going.
Right.
But when you're in the dirt on a hill or in a downhill or side hill, and you're starting and stopping and starting and stopping.
Yeah.
For some reason, I can just see that thing going boop, 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 boop.
And then that one time you miss your foot, and you're over on its side.
Absolutely, yes. But the good thing is the seat height is not as elevated as BMW or KTM.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be cool to try. I mean, we can speculate, but yeah, it's something I'd love to try.
Well,
and I definitely think they've done. Definitely think they've done good with something that's been completely out of their segment and bringing that to the table. Now, saying that, I do personally wonder why maybe 10 years ago they didn't just take the Sportster, which is kind of the do-it-all okay bike, and not just like do a different fork and suspension, slap some knobbies on it, and at least try to introduce that. Because Ducati Scrambler and like everybody's got a Scrambler model. Why they couldn't do that with a Sportster already? I think that's kind of strange.
Well, they could have, but again, you got to look at their demographic audience. And when you look at that, they're traditionalists.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just like the water-cooled Harley.
Mm-hmm.
That has been a very limited success.
Right. Yeah, like the Street 750s and stuff like that. I'm like, I look at them, I think they're cool, but I guess they didn't really do as hot as they wanted.
They don't sell. The demographic that is Harley-oriented, and I've got Harleys, I ride Harleys, I love them, I think they're great, but they're not my choice to go on a long trip. Saying that, I've got a good friend of mine, a woman out in Northern California that rides Harleys to death. She goes through a new bike every 2 years and puts mega miles on it. She'll do a 2-week trip and do 4,000 to 8,000 miles.
Man, that's a lot.
That's for you, Kima.
We'll tag you in here somehow. That'd be cool. We'll get you in on this. Man, that'd be cool. I just had one friend I follow on Instagram. She did the Babes Ride Out in, I guess, New York, and she lives in like Sacramento or something like that. And she recently bought a Dyna and rode all the way across the country. And as we're filming this, she's probably almost home. But yeah, like one of the days she made it 900 miles, and first time she's done like a big ride like that. And it's cool watching because I'm like, I'm not ready for that yet.
Had you been here a week ago, we could have gone over to the 6th annual Women's Bike Show over at Texas Motor Speedway.
Yeah.
MotoLady puts that on,
I follow her. She's so cool.
Yeah, in fact, her new book is just out.
Mm-hmm.
I just finished reading it. It's a tribute to women in motorcycle going back to the beginning, and she's got a bunch of women that are impressive riders in there.
Yeah, there's some badasses out there.
Yeah,
it's so cool. I love seeing that stuff. And yeah, I haven't met her personally. I've seen her at shows. I haven't met her, but yeah, I definitely admire her and a lot of other people. It's just she's definitely doing something and helping just that name and just bringing some more women to the forefront. And putting the spotlight where it's needed on them.
Yeah, and here in Dallas, we have a very high quality builder, female, Sophia, who has built some really nice bikes, and she's quite talented.
Yeah, Sofi Tsingos.
Yeah, it's easy for you to say.
Yeah. Yeah, she's another cool one. I definitely follow her as well. So, stuff.
But there's one last thing before we go. You're a dog person, and I'm a dog person.
You guys might have picked that up in the videos and stuff.
There is a young Australian couple who I met, and I'm guessing now 5, maybe 6 years ago. They flew from Australia into Dallas.
I think I remember you sharing this. Yeah.
And they bought 2 650s from my BMW dealer. And the dealer called me up and asked me if I would come over and meet them and talk with them about traveling in foreign countries. And I said, well, I don't know what I can tell them, but I'd be happy to meet them. I met them, and they call themselves the Packtrack. And they were starting out on a tour that I believe was going to be 18 months, maybe 24 months.
Yeah,
and
so
they're both engineers, and they had a dog, Skyla. And they were taking a dog, and I was going to give them advice until I saw the dog, and then I had no advice because I've never traveled with a dog.
Yeah.
And they were quite concerned because everybody was telling them that they would be murdered, they would be robbed, bad things would happen to them. And I told them my philosophy, which is 98% of the world are good people. They want to meet you, they want to understand what you're doing, they want you to learn something about the culture, they want to help you in some way. And I said, your job is to find the 2% and get the hell away from them. And they've been traveling now for 6 years.
Oh my gosh.
Skyla, who had cancer when they arrived here, died in South America. They adopted 2 dogs, smaller dogs, and Skyla was a pit bull. And they have been traveling ever since with these 2 dogs. They have taken and engineered, they're both engineers, a what they call a pooch pillion, which goes on the back of their bikes. And the dogs ride in these little pup tents in the back, and they have been traveling for 6 years now. Right now, they are somewhere in the Balkans.
Are there any cooler dogs? And those dogs are just the coolest.
I mean, they have made it across every border in the world. And I can't remember how many countries they've been to now. A little side story is Holly and I exited the plane in Victoria Falls, and unbeknownst to us, they were standing there and met us, and we got to spend like 3 or 4 days with them in Victoria Falls. They had been following us in Africa,
and they just knew you were coming.
And they knew where we were going next, and so they detoured and came over to Victoria Falls to meet us.
How cool is that?
Oh, it's wonderful.
Do the dogs have their own passports?
They got dog ports. I don't think they do, but they'd
have way more stamps than most people.
Absolutely. But the Packtrack is an amazing couple that have been all over the world. Sorry to interject.
No. How would you follow them? Do they have Instagram?
They are on Facebook. They're on all the stuff that you young kids are on. So
I'm 34, so I don't know. These TikTokers and stuff.
Yeah, well, you need to more than double you to get to me.
So, yeah, that's cool. I had forgot all about that. It would be cool to follow up with them.
I have one of their pup tents, as I call them, in the back, in the box, which I am going to assemble and put on the back of one of my GS's.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done it yet because I really don't ride with my dog except in the sidecar.
I was gonna say she might be cool enough. And speaking of sidecars,
Sassy.
Yeah, I want to. You know, you
Sassy.
guys have seen Ben and Aspen on the channel. I'd like to do a little sidecar and see if we can get Aspen in that. I think she'd be
Come here.
mildly okay with it.
Come on, no,
Where's
she's
Sassy?
being, come here.
Oh, you camera shy?
No, she's just been asleep. She's been oversleeping by the Harley.
Sassy.
Yeah.
I think so. She likes riding the sidecar.
Yep. She's got her own doggles.
Oh, that's another thing. Got to get some doggles.
Yeah.
She looks like a biker dog.
Squirrel. There's those ears. Squirrel. There's those ears. Yeah. Okay.
So, all right, John. It's always a pleasure talking.
BJ, it's always my pleasure. We don't get to see you often enough. You're welcome anytime.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So,
And that, by the way, is part of what the Moto House is about. It was a place and is a place for people coming through to stop by, visit, place to stay, work on your motorcycles, do laundry, get something to eat.
it's a good place to refresh and recharge some batteries for sure. So, very cool. Well, John, good talking with you. We're going to end it off here. I hope you guys like this one. Anyway, let me know what you think of a video like this. Always interesting people in life, and you know, it's fun to sit down and talk. So anyway, thanks.
Thank you.